Thank you. Hi, before I get started, I wanted to give honor and respect to the indigenous and original peoples of this land. Years ago, I saw an ad in a magazine that asked the question, "What did you leave at home when you came to work today?" Now, the ad went on to give examples like your accent, your yarmulke, your strong opinion. The list was long. And as I went through the list, I started making my own mental note about what I had left at home when I came to work that day. We live in a binary society that is forever asking us to choose. There are lines to stand in, boxes to check, categories we have to pick to designate who we are. But really, they're for others to determine where we fit. And because we live in this binary society that's forever asking us to choose between this or that, for those who decide to walk their own walk or talk their own talk, they receive a subtle push, and sometimes not so subtle push, to get back into line. Movies like The Handmaid's Tale, where a Fred doesn't even have her own name, or The Stepford Wives, where men are making robotic wives, or even the faction systems from the Divergent series, as you can tell I'm a little bit of a movie buff, are examples, although extreme, of the consequences of not conforming, but instead to choose individual thought and action. Now, the desire to fit is a primal need that dates back to early man, when being a part of a protective group meant life or death. So fear of being ostracized or separated from the herd, if you will, reinforced conformity and devalued individuality. I mean, even if we look at the definition of fit, it means to be of suitable quality of, or to be of the right shape or size, which implies that we have to manipulate and maneuver and shape ourselves in order to have a proper fit. But belonging is about a closeness and an intimacy, a full acceptance of a thing for what it is. It's about being a member of without having to relinquish or reject those pieces of yourself. So whether out of comfort or survival, we've been taught these messages since children, implicitly and explicitly, that it's important to not stand out, to not be different. And as a result, if we did, we had to chip away the pieces of ourselves to follow the definition of fit, strip away the wonderful, beautiful, unique qualities, our humor, our laughter, these pieces of ourselves in order to fit. The things that define who we actually are. And why do we do that? Why do we conform so easily to it? I think because along the way, we have confused the idea of fit and belonging. Now, I had to learn these lessons too as a young girl. Aren't it cute? When I was in school, the nuns would flick my mouth if I spoke incorrect grammar, letting me know that wasn't appropriate. And unbeknownst to them, I started to silence my voice. And my mom, when I came home from school, disheveled and covered in dirt, hair everywhere, because I was a bit of a tomboy, climbing trees and playing with the dog, my mother would say, "Carol, that's not the way a lady behaves." And so unbeknownst to her, I started to stifle my creativity. And my dad, when he would show home movies and the slides would pop up, and I seemed to be in every last one of them, the original photobomber. You know, my dad would make a comment on that, and when he did, little did he know, he made me start to play small and to avoid the spotlight. And when I would go swimming with my white girlfriends, my freshly pressed and coiffed hair would revert to a tightly coiled afro, and they would laugh. But little did they know that I internalized this idea that my hair was undesirable or a joke. Now, I don't blame my family and friends, because these experiences gave me the insight that I'm able to share with you today. After all, they were only reinforcing the lessons that they themselves learned about how to fit. And so message after message after message that I received throughout my life reinforced which parts of me fit and were therefore acceptable, and which parts of me didn't fit and were therefore unacceptable. So dutifully, I too began to chip away at the pieces of myself and limiting what I allowed others to see and only allowing them to see a version of me. Even today, as I stand before you, there are TV commercials and ads and brands and some well-meaning friends who tell me I don't fit because of my size or the hue of my skin or my age, or the texture of my hair. Can any of you all relate to this? That's why that ad, even though I saw it over 10 years ago, still registers vividly in my mind today. Now, my own quest to find a place of belonging started when my family moved from the predominant community that I grew up in the Bay Area of California, where my family were the only African Americans in the grammar school, to the south side of Chicago in a predominantly black community when I was 13 years old. Now, making friends was a little bit challenging, particularly because they always told me I wasn't black enough, because my vernacular and affect weren't the same as the girls in my newfound community. And no one sent me the memo at 13 that there was only one version of being black. So to my current community and the community surrounding me, I was a perfect fit. But little did they know, I didn't belong. I definitely didn't feel like I belonged. It actually wasn't until my late 30s, when I started my doctoral program, that I started to understand this idea of belonging. I remember walking into the orientation and looking around the room and seeing people of different cultures and backgrounds and ethnicities. And there was something oddly comforting about that. And as I continued on with my studies and saw literature that articulated my experience and be introduced to concepts like black feminist thought and gender identity politics, studying these things among others who were also searching for answers to their own life questions, I started to come alive. It was exciting to finally not have to go about the business of trying to fit into yet another place, yet another community, yet another program, but to be fully immersed in the adventure, to lean in, to be fully present as is. Now, not wanting to leave any things to chance, while I was going through my orientation program, I saw a community of women that I wanted to get together with. So I went to the dean of students and I tapped on her shoulder and said, "Could we get together for dinner?" Now, you know that was risky, because getting a bunch of women together could either be gloriously wonderful or a horrible nightmare. And luckily, to my surprise, it was magical. And it was magical not just because we were all doctoral students or even that we were women of color, because we could not have been more different. But as we sat there and broke bread and connected and shared our stories, what I realized is that each of us were longing to feel as if we belong, to be fully present as one is. So, like the proverbial onion, I started to peel away and reveal those pieces of myself that I had silenced and denied and hid away for so long. And as I continued exploring in my studies, what I started to come to understand was that belonging, true belonging, starts with an understanding and acceptance of self. That your first place of belonging is within you. It's within the heart of you. Only then can we have the cognitive ability to choose external places of belonging, whether it's a job or our tribe or our purpose. And it cannot be done in isolation. And it can't be done when we're trying to manipulate ourselves in order to fit. Today, I have the privilege to work with midlife women who are still trying to find the answer to the question, what do I want to be when I grow up? And these are amazing women. They're professional and successful and talented, people you would emulate and want to get to know. Yet they're still searching for what to do with their career, to find their purpose or what they want to do. And I believe it's because they have struggled for so many years trying to fit instead of finding places of belonging. And I understand that struggle. I understand why they're trying to figure out who they are and what they want to be when they grow up, because we do more in our lives to teach people how to fit in than we do going about the business of teaching them how to belong and to embrace all the wonderful, unique, fabulous pieces of themselves that should be celebrated and allowed to shine through. In a lot of ways, we're like these dysfunctional superheroes wearing these intense masks that hide our secret identities. And we bury and lock away those secret identities so deep that we can't even see it, recognize it, understand it, or find it. That's why over 70% of people are not engaged with even the work that they do in the world, and only 13% of people love what they do. When my sisters come to me broken, challenged, afraid of losing their respect for the world that they've built around them, I begin the process of unraveling what it was that they left at home when they went into their places of work. And then we begin the process of reclaiming their true selves so their gifts can emerge, so they can no longer follow the conformity messages and can unlock the door, the prison door that's been holding all their fabulousness inside for so long. And I get the privilege of watching them step out of the shadows into the light, to step into their calling, their true calling. You see, my friends, we have been hoodwinked and bamboozled to believe that the corner office and the big paycheck and the recognition, all the societal ideas of success are what we should be going after, because all we do is manipulate ourselves to fit through that process. And when I ask my clients what intrinsic value any of this holds for them, many of them say none at all. I too, 5 years ago on the precipice of my own 50th birthday, were struggling with these questions in the process of my reclamation. Finally understanding that true belonging is an embracement of self, I reclaimed the voice I thought my nuns were trying to silence. I captured the creativity that I thought my mom didn't understand, and I boldly stepped into the spotlight that I thought my father wanted to keep me out of. And when society tries to make me fit, I just sway my curvaceous hips. I revel in the melanin of my skin. I celebrate the kinky coils of my hair. And I am grateful for the years that I have been blessed with being on this earth. You see, when you see yourself, your true self, and all the magnificence of you, you no longer try to fit. You seek places of belonging, and I want that for you, for each of you. And belonging is not by being part of a society's binary classifications of just race and gender and sex and age. It's so much more. It's the fabulous and wonderfulness of you across society's binary classifications. But it takes a choice. It's a choice to stop being apologetic about who you are and dismissing those fabulous pieces of you, and instead to embrace all of you, the magnificence of you, to find your places of belonging and to be unapologetically you. Thank you.